According to Putin, the Wagner organization is entirely supported by the Russian government. President Vladimir Putin confirmed for the first time that the Wagner Group, which held protests over the weekend, received money from the Russian state. According to Interfax, Putin said in a meeting with the military that, "We give all the money to this organization." Putin said that the group, which defines itself as a private military company, received a total of 86.26 billion rubles, $1.01 billion, from the state budget in 12 months. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko confirmed yesterday that Wagner composer Yevgeny Prigozhin has arrived in Belarus, state news agency Belta reported. Prigozhin, after withdrawing the army, agreed to leave Russia for neighboring countries. Yesterday morning the plane connected with him landed in the city of Minsk. Yesterday, Putin told the soldiers to stop the war after Wagner's betrayal. In a meeting with senior officials, he said that the Russian government provided more than $1 billion in funding to Wagner in 2022-23. Meanwhile, the Russian Ministry of Defense reported that preparations have begun for the delivery of heavy military equipment by the Wagner mercenary group. After the Wagner Group attack last weekend, Russian Defense Minister Viktor Zolotov urged his troops to acquire armor and long-range weapons. Zolotov said that although the guards responsible for internal security had artillery and attack helicopters at their disposal, there were no such weapons. He said that during the attack, the guards focused on the Moscow road and that although the Wagner Group was able to approach the city, they could not take Moscow. 200,000 guards were created in 2016 by Putin and under the direct orders of the president. Seemingly close to Putin, Zolotov accused Western intelligence agencies of organizing an attack to end Russia's involvement in Ukraine. Yes, this attack was planned and supported by Western intelligence, as they said they knew weeks ago, he said. According to Vladimir Putin, from May 2022 to May 2023 alone, Wagner received a salary and bonus of 86,262 billion rubles, $1 billion, from the Ministry of Defense and the state budget. Russia was shaken by a special army uprising on Saturday. Its leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, arrived in Belarus on Tuesday after agreeing to leave Russia. Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko confirmed his arrival. Earlier, it was learned that a private plane bound to Prigozhin was followed to land in Minsk, the capital of Belarus. On Saturday, mercenaries led by Wagner's director, Yevgeny Prigozhin, captured the city of Rostov-on-Don in southern Russia and marched on Moscow, firing at Russian military helicopters and planes en route. After the meeting with the help of Bay, their protest was withdrawn. Lukashenko. Russian officials said Wagner would be fired but would escape prosecution due to the brief protests of his members. Mr. Putin said, "We have always had great respect for the soldiers and leaders of this group for showing courage and true heroism." He said authorities will investigate whether money was used to pay Wagner and his officials. The Ministry of Defense said that the group is preparing to deliver heavy weapons and equipment to the Russian army. Charges against those involved in the attack were also dropped, according to the FSB security service. What is the Wagner Mercenary Corps? Yevgeny Prigozhin, from Putin's chief to rebel leaders. Wagner members are accused of military coup, but the Russian FSB said the case was closed because the rebels were not guilty. Putin said on Monday that his soldiers could join the regular army and return home or go to Belarus, adding that most of the fighters were patriots who were deceived into committing crimes. Mr. Lukashenko said that Belarus has not started to build a camp for the members of the group, but will help them if they need it. Earlier on Tuesday, Putin told Russian soldiers in Moscow that their actions during the protests had prevented a civil war and held a minute's silence for the victims. He said that although the crowd cheered and applauded Wagner's army when it left Rostov-on-Don, Wagner's army had never had the support of soldiers or the people. The treatment of mercenaries contrasts with those opposed to the government and opposition, many of whom were jailed for speaking out against the war in Ukraine. For example, protester Vladimir Kara-Murza was sentenced to 25 years in prison for treason. On the other hand, the Wagnerian leader Prigozhin and the soldiers who participated in the revolt seem to have been released. Prigozhin defended his actions, saying that the attack was not an attempt to challenge Putin's leadership. Instead, he declared that he had saved the group of mercenaries from being absorbed by the Russian army, exposing the failure of the country's army.